Let's be real for a moment. Do you think you have to be a professional pastor or prophet to be able to use prophecy in the real world? If you get a prophetic word for someone, how do you work it into the conversation? What should you do or say? Welcome to Practical Prophecy. In this series, we answer common questions and misconceptions about prophetic ministry and revelatory gifts to help you use practical prophecy for the real world. I'm Andrea York, Prophetic Director at Sonrise Church. Jacob Duperon is back again this week. He joined me last week as we talked about how to process prophetic words. Go back and check it out if you missed it. And today we're chatting about how to use prophecy in everyday life. All right, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. So, you are probably one of the most prophetic people I know. You're definitely one of the highly prophetic in our prophetic class that we do here at Sonrise Church. And what I am inspired, and I know that you inspire others, in how you actually use the prophetic gifts and the revelatory gifts in everything you do. So maybe kind of explain, do you feel like, how did that become part of who you are? We just talked that it's part of who you are. So how did that develop?
That's a great question. It's always developed through intimacy with the Holy Spirit. This is His gift. As you get to know Him more, it becomes a part of you and it flows from you and it becomes very natural. It's just like us talking here naturally. It's just having a conversation. It's just like that with Him. It's not like, oh, okay, I need to get a prophetic word. It's a conversation piece, you know. And when you talk about using the prophetic or encouraging people in the world, the work world, everyone needs encouragement. Everyone does. And I had a situation one time where I was talking to a guy and he was just like, oh, I don't believe in anything that I can't see, so, you know, I don't believe in God. And I have answers for those type of questions, but when he said that, I'd like, you know, Father, I need to hear what you're saying to this man because you know what's going to release him to believe and receive you. So I just waited and nothing came. It was just like, I mean, like, 'cause if the Father's not speaking, I'm not speaking. I just want to get into that mode. And I was affirming his question. And as I was affirming his question and that, I was just dropping out, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to say? Because he knows really what this man is asking, whether it's about something he believes or something he's misunderstood. And it felt like an hour, but it was like probably 5 or 7 seconds. And then I felt the release of the Holy Spirit. And then I began to give him some examples. And he was just like, huh. And then the next day he came and he's like, well, what about this? And then I was affirming his question again while I'm dropping down and going, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to say to this man? And that went on for quite a few weeks. And it was amazing because sometimes he would ask a question and I'd have a certain answer that I'm thinking of, and then the Holy Spirit would give me something else, and it'd be like, wow, that was a great answer. I didn't tell him that because that would be kind of really weird, but you know, it was amazing how the Holy Spirit was bringing up certain things that he needed to hear, not just what I was thinking about.
I think it's interesting that what you're saying is that you marvel at it as well. That God is speaking and speaking so directly to what that, like, you're like, yay God, and you get to be the vessel, which is really neat. So I love this. Like, you're having like a conversation, like me and you, and then a vertical conversation, so like to speak.
I'm right now I am. Actually, help me through this time.
Right? Like, there's two conversations going, and that's really what I think people struggle with or might struggle with. Like, do I have to go away and go into a dark corner to be able to prophesy or to use it, before they can answer? And the answer is no. You're having this conversation. You're always having thoughts in your head anyway. I like that way that you do. You said that you're very easy with it. Did you grow up with it?
No, not at all.
No.
Actually, when did we start in the prophetic? I think it was only like 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, just before I met you there, I think. When I was at the school there.
Right.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so it's been very
Another
recent.
local school of the supernatural locally around here.
Yeah, but it just made sense, and we're going to a church where the gifts weren't practiced, and I just knew there was more. It's just there's always more, and I was pressing into it, and believing, and just stepping out. You know, how is faith really described? It's described by risk. You know, if you don't risk, there is no faith involved. You know, and I just kept on stepping out, and God was showing up. I was like, this is so much fun. I can't believe it. Because when you act in the prophetic, it's encouraging for people, right?
Absolutely.
But you can't give what you don't have. So therefore you get encouraged as you're encouraging them. It's because God just flows through you with this word of encouragement, and then you're like, this is amazing. You know, it's a win-win situation.
It really is. And I just want to say, you are a father of 3 incredibly, also highly prophetic, gifted children that love Jesus. Your oldest now is at a Bible school.
The middle.
Yeah. Although you didn't actually grow up with this, how did you engage your children to also operate in the prophetic like this? Because they do this just as you do, as like natural, like breathing.
That's a great question. See, there I'm stalling again, like, Holy Spirit, what am I supposed to say? Because you backtrack and it's like, it's because I asked him to help me. And I asked him to birth that in them. And then I created opportunities for them to walk into it.
So explain that. Like, what kind of opportunities would you kind of set them up for success in the prophetic?
Well, I gave them that opportunity about going to the school that we went to at Cloverdale. And, or not at Cloverdale, we're in White Rock.
At Oxford, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, I gave that opportunity to them, but I didn't pressure them or guilt them or anything. It was just like, hey, there's this opportunity that we can learn this and that. It's really cool. And I shared my excitement and then left it at that and prayed about it. And just, God, birth that in them. I know that's what you want to do in them. Birth that in them. And yeah, and then we start talking about the prophetic, and then they would see me giving prophetic words, and they would receive prophetic words, and they're like, this is so cool. This is like, and my son, Josh, he was just like, wow, everyone should be doing this. It's just so real, because God becomes very intimate with people.
He meets us where we are.
Yeah.
Every time.
And he takes us where we need to go.
And he takes us, and that's a lot. What the prophetic. That's how we can use prophetic outside of the church. I love it. Mm-hmm. Maybe even more so outside of the, because they don't know that God knows them so well. Mm-hmm. Right.
That's true.
So, what other kind of opportunities or what kind of scenarios would you use the prophetic gifts, and that includes like words of knowledge and wisdom?
Mm-hmm. I had a situation a few months ago where I was talking to a guy, and we're just sitting across the lunch table at work, and I just asked the Lord, Lord, do you have a word for him? And then I saw this picture of a red tricycle and a young boy sitting on it with long blonde hair. And it's not my fantasy about having hair, so I know that wasn't really... well, we've got to clarify that I wasn't thinking of tricycles. I wasn't thinking of little kids having joyful times. It just kind of came out of nowhere. So that's kind of one good way of discerning how he's speaking to us. You know, if I'm sitting there thinking about tricycles all day and all of a sudden I get a vision of a tricycle, it's...
Right.
You know, you can kind of discern.
That's a good way to qualify, like the mental steps that we go through to make sure that this is the word of the Lord, not something in our own environment. Yeah. And
this man is a very jovial individual. He's always making jokes and having a great time and stuff. And I really didn't know what the tricycle meant or anything like that. And so I talked to him. I said, you know, I was just praying for you, and I saw this vision of this little boy on a tricycle, long blonde hair, a red tricycle, and I just asked him, you know, does that mean anything to you? And right away he's like, not really. And then he said, oh, my boys had one when they were young and stuff. And it just came to me, and I said, I feel like the Lord is saying he's going to return the joy, your joy, back to your family. And then he just dropped. He just didn't, like, his head went down, and I was like, what happened? You know, because it didn't make sense that he needed joy back in his family because he was such a happy guy.
Because he was a guy, yeah.
But it turned out his son-in-law died from an overdose like a month ago, and the family's been wrecked, and they're just trying to put things back together. And so it really spoke to him, and he was just like, he never doesn't tell anyone at work that way because he doesn't want to give into the gossip or that. And then he talked to me for about 15-20 minutes about the whole scenario, and then I just asked him if I could pray for him about it, and he just said, yeah, sure, right away. I prayed for him that God would really bless them, and that God would be real to them and comfort them and encourage them. And it's so interesting to me that God is working in non-believers' lives, or pre-Christians at that point, just wanting to bless them when they really want nothing to do with him. Just his love is so amazing, and how he constantly pursues us. And even though I had that word of knowledge that really struck him, and I said, it's just Jesus gave me a word of knowledge to encourage you. He's still not a believer yet, but it's still, God just loves him. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to keep on loving people. I just like it in Luke 6:35 when it says, God is kind to the ungrateful and evil men. And it's just like, what? I have a hard time with my kids when they don't put their dishes away. And you're kind to ungrateful and evil men.
That's so good.
Oh, it's just beautiful. And then I live in so much more freedom, because if someone offends me, God's going to be kind to them. And I want to walk in that kindness that blesses them.
Wow.
So that just washes off of me, and I can't be offended. Right?
That is a good word. That's a great word. I know some of the things that I've used, the prophetic, and just even this tapping into the supernatural and what Holy Spirit does. I remember I was in my mechanic's office. His office was right next to where my son was doing Aikido, and so he was trying to print something, and his printer wasn't working. He was getting very frustrated. And this is not a guy that was a Christian in any way. And I really could sense this real sense of anxiousness, anxiety. There was way more going on besides just this printer not working. And so I quickly prayed about that printer.
Prayed for the printer?
Printer, yeah. Under my breath, not with him.
Yeah.
And I said, I think you should try it again. And he did, and it worked.
Oh,
and he says,
awesome.
What did you do?
Yeah.
And I said, God just wants to give you peace. And I could sense that you were getting anxious. And so I wanted to show you God's peace.
Oh, wow. That's
And
awesome.
so, that's just another little example of God cares about all of the little minute things that we think are beyond him, or he's not worried about.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
There's just the prophetic, using the prophetic in the real world just happens in conversation and becomes part of who you are. So that's all for today. Have you ever seen or used the prophetic in the real world? Give us some examples in the comments. We'd really love to hear how you've seen it at work in the real world. If you have any questions or other topics you'd like us to discuss about practical prophecy, you can let us know in the comments, and we might use them in a future video. Next time, Pastor Chris is back again, and we'll be talking about why prophets are weird. We're not weird.
It's just wait, are we?
Make sure you subscribe to the Sonrise channel so that you'll be notified for when we post new videos. Thanks. God bless.
God bless you.